Let's have a look at this weekly challenge, number 7. So for this one, we're finally going to do some uh, download data. So we'll try to do some API JSON parsing. The input is single URL. That's why we try to go query to get our data. In terms of final results, we can see we have some kind of data field. So it's arrival. I think this is a air flight. I got this. Yeah, it's annual outbound tourism stats for the US. So we're looking for the dates, arrival, then we have a different tourism metric. Let's see what column they're looking for. Expenditure country, that's it, expanded country. So you probably let's look at the metadata instead. So it's integers, we're looking for the 3 expenditures. Passenger, okay. Let's see what can I download. So to get data from Alteryx, we're gonna use a download tool. Pretty much everything you interact with, it's go externally, is download for API. Because we have a very simple query, and we don't need to worry too much about credential, etc. So we don't need DCM. Let's use standard URL. Encode the URL just to do with any special characters you may have. Usually you want to construct the URL good in the first place, like particular space, etc. need to be handled. String usually fine. Header, we don't have anything. That's when you have authentication, you want to pass the tokens, you have a particular application type, you want how to communicate. The default setup payload, what we have is on top HTTP. We most often is get option. Sometimes you may have a put, so you want to send data up, or you want some kind of delete action to change your. You have a get post, that's one coming in, goes out, or you can delete. There's other ways you can construct a query body, but for us, we have a very simple endpoint. We can just go directly. For this, let's just download the tool as it is to see what we get. When downloading, there's a few things you can notice. One is, let's click on it. Usually you have a lot of data, so sometimes you may want to cache the download tool. So you do not want to repeatedly run. Because every time you run it, you use up the quota for your API. And a lot of service has some restriction by the time and by the number of calls you do. For us, you can see the header, come back HTTP 200, usually it's good. Anything else, you want to probably troubleshoot. There's a list in online to tell you 300, 400, 500 corresponding to. We have everything as in the download data. It's in the JSON format with curly brackets. For us, because it's a very long string, so we want to see a browse after it. Select. Before the browse, actually, let's do a selective first. The benefit, if you do not want to continue to loop over to say iterative macro, you may not need to use the URL and the download header because those information is not needed anymore. Keep it download data only. The second thing, because data is JSON, so we'll see we will JSON pass. The select tool, another purpose is to get rid of the HTML, the URL in the first place. Otherwise, JSON pass will pivot everything along. You're going to get a lot of rows, and that will increase the data substantially if you don't drop the unnecessary columns. They do take a lot of space. Default is fine. We don't need to worry anything about the change setup. At this step, we can probably just right-click and cache the results in a row. So we don't want to hit API endpoint constantly with a high volume. Just quick DC. We have our data. Everything is in the column format. So when you do some pivoting to pivot wider the data. If you can scroll things, we'll notice on the very top, there's are some kind of metadata information about the data set. Then we can start to go down. We do have notice they call the column names. That's good. That is the header. So that indicate for us probably the first 8 rows is metadata. We may not need that a lot. 9 to column names, so 17. That's pretty good. It's called header. We probably want, that's the thing we want. We can even see some of the inbound metrics we try to pass out for the funnel. Scroll down a bit, we have data set. Um, how to read the JSON? Probably easier to see with a single dot. So data set, the first one, leave a dot, that basically one level down. Everything else in between, frequency, type, premium, we probably don't, it's blank, probably don't need it. Start and date, that's fine. We're not going to do any filtering on the data. Otherwise, sometimes you want to pass the date range parameter in the API call. We probably just care about the data. Okay, that's fine. Let's actually do some selection of data. You have two choices. You can use a filter, or in this case, you can use select records. I want to make things more dynamic. Let's probably use a filter to do the logic. So we can filter on the JSON name, which is basically the column header. So we can say JSON name. Now we can use contain rather than type of string. Contains JSON name. We're looking for column names. So COLUMN. So that should return us those row number 9 up to 17. So we're going to have 10 rows, 10 entries. The rest we care is just put anything to do with data. So we don't want to call it basically contain data only because every single thing has a data set, doesn't have the data in it. We probably want to do data and a dot. Contains. We're looking for the target is data dot. So makes sense, should be make sense unique enough. One in particular with handling data or JSON format. Oh, let me check, choose data one. You can use multiple filter. There's nothing wrong with it, even though you may be able to do it in a single master filter, but it's good to break the steps out. It's easy to visualize things better. Let's just quick look and inspect the structure a bit. Because we know if we pivot the white, we're going to have 9 column headers. So we're looking for 9 columns. If we look at this thing, you have 0 up to 8. Okay, that's good. That should match things up. Then the next, so you can see the first 0 is probably first records. You have 8 columns respect to the all 8 values. Then 0 to 8, yeah, that's good. It's in a neat format. Sometimes, particularly for non-SQL data, you may have things that's quite wide, they may not fit in the same column. You got to be careful how to pass those out. And that's it. Let's just repeat that bit. So the aim, let's handle our column header and everything else separately. We already have a text in it, so let me just click this again. Oh, it's not showing up. Oh, there it is. So let's say on top we just have column names. On the 2 should be the header, files should be just regular names. That's fine. We're looking for header values. As on the top is fine, but we do need want to get a number out, so pop a text column. We're going to have 2 dots, so we separate by dots. So we'll pivot to this column, the JSON name column. Okay, that's good. Then for the one below, what we have is we actually have 1, 2, 3, 3 dots. So we're going to do 4 columns instead. We split by the dot. If we do 4 columns, our text column, probably want to just change the name a bit. So the I string of the data set name column, we don't need it. So column number 3, that basically indicate for the metric or the column header for the data we are interested. Then for the one below, data set 1, 2, we don't need. Number 3 almost behave as like the record ID. Column number 4 is kind of like a header ID. So we can join our column back on. You can add a select tool in between if you can remember the logic, but otherwise, if you're a bit lazy like me, you can probably just drop all the columns. Let's deselect everything. Deselect all. We're going to drop, remember, we're going to add the column ID code. So for the left input, so that's column number 3. For the right input, it's actually column number 4. Then let's select the required data. So for us, in the left-hand side, what we care the JSON value string that's attached. That's a metric column pivot. Everything else can be dropped. Then for the right-hand side, we care the JSON value string as well. Let's remove this thing. So for the first one, that comes from is probably the header. That's the values. We do want number 3 because number 3 behaves as an ID field, like a record ID. Let's call it record ID, i.e. CORD record ID. Everything else, I think, we can drop. The join field is not necessarily needed. We can keep it dropped out. Let's run the closely. Good. Header's fine. We can filter the header out and of the values. And I remember, I think I lost a date field on it. No, we have a date field. It's in the columns. Should be fun. So that's ID2, ID4. Okay, we have a dates field. Okay, that's fun. We have a long format. We want white. How many columns we need? We only want to. We can do select later. So you can either do a filter to get a rows before you pivot white, or you can pivot the rows with the header in, then you can select to choose the column you want. So for me, I think I'll probably pivot white first. So you have a long format, we're going to go white. That's cross tab. Record ID is basically behave as a group by field. Header is header, value goes for values. At the moment, we have, even though you have some number in there, because it's a single column type, they are cast into the least common. So usually it's a string type. For the field, I assume we don't have anything long. So fine. 2000 should be fine, comma separate. You may want to, we don't expect anything to be concatenated. Let's say for the sake of safety, let's put a slash instead. With the comma, we have numbers. If you use a comma as a separate, you may not actually spot it. Okay, I probably need a more group. Yes, so we need to handle the data field better. Let's actually go back, have a look how they handle the data field. Records won't have the data. We have a dates, so they should be belong to a dates. What's wrong with this thing? Okay, we'll probably need to sync. Okay, we need to do something about the dates first. In output canon creating framing, because all those should correspond to a single dates. Let's see what's misaligned. Ooh, I think it's the record ID. We need to modify the record ID. Ooh, I think I probably dropped too many columns in the joins part. We join the hot header because our things is not unique enough. We probably want to keep column number 3. So for the right join, we probably want the number 3. Number 3, What's the best way to describe it? Number three, number four is the header. So number three from the left behave as the probably select the wrong record ID. It's not the left number three I want. It's this guy I want. So if we group by the eventual data point, we're going to have this as a column. This should be a date. Oh, I think it's the one, the three, and the four I need. See, that's the best. Go back to the previous step. You probably should name your column headers. Make a bit more sense. Let's add a bit of select to make things more intuitive. JSON value string, we still need a JSON value string. Yes, dataset data column querying. Number three corresponding to, that tell you the order of column you try to proceed. Let's call it column ID. For this one, let's remove everything. The value string we still need. The top JSON value string will eventually be header. So let's just call it header. The bottom JSON value string should be values. One, two, we don't need a three and a four. So number four, that we're going to join on the column header. So it's a column ID basically. Then this should be row ID. Of it's a bit better. So rather than to join on numbers, we are going to join on column ID, column IDs. Going to forget the missing fields. So header value will definitely need that pair. Column ID will join together. I'm going to select column ID and row ID. Wait, do we need a column? I don't think we need column ID. Let's just see. So we don't need the column ID. We're using the row ID to fit the things. Yes, that's better. So the column ID fix the column header, the row ID fix the row ID. Getting those. Now we just select. Because the column in Alteryx they do not accept the special characters when you go to column. We can change it later with the select, but by the looking of it, again a bit too lazy to do that. So instead, let's actually select records with a header. Let's do a filter. You can use the select tool to manually rename those columns, but another option we can apply early on at the head level. So we interested in our JSON names, JSON value string, in some list of stuff. In the text. So we want string type to capture all the things we interested. MF, so the comma to separate things. Yeah, this will probably take a longer time to do as well. Probably copy pasting does like maybe faster, but depends on your perceived time of doing and how robust the process is. input querying. So we should then capture querying post bracket. So we're looking for strings. Let's see. Nope, that's not what you want. It's all the inbound, isn't it? Arrival, tourism, expenditure. So we have arrival we need. Let's just take a screenshot. Okay, I guess the lazy way doesn't work. Let's do the long way. Let me select metadata, take a screenshot. Let's just go back to the final select instead. Select without header. Take a screenshot as well, just in case. So that's what happens in work. Usually you try different things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We remove the finance, so auto column header should pass through. Select the right one, well, that route, delete and connect route. You can always move, the benefit of Alteryx, you can always move things to split out into a separate workflow and test your logics. Let's just get last select instead. Let's run workflow to get metadata to pass through. So we have the column names with us. So let me see if I can find my screenshot for. Probably need to take a screenshot again. I'll change our things. We don't care about record D. The data is there. Then the next field we want arrivals in terms thousands. So only says arrival is this guy. Control C, Control V. So we want arrivals. So this step, you don't necessarily need to perform. It's just fun of cleaning the data set, the annoying things. And dash cleaning, that's what the data need to do. We need, because it don't allow space, so it's space, bracket, thousands TF. Ooh. Oh, that's formatting. Then the next is tourism expenditure. Tourism expenditure. So that's guys we need. So all the expenditures, travel. So expenditure. Also how to find total expenditure in the country US. So that's your expenditure in the US. Oh, I think we need to pivot into group both inbound and outbound. Expenditure, then you will travel, passenger transport. So let me just give a pause on video, have a think if I need to pivot things again. Two things I had a look. The column header is always confusing, but rather than using the select tool, let's actually do one more tool. It's called a dynamic rename. It's when you have multiple column header to rename, and maybe a quick way of handling it. So the first thing to do, dynamic rename, we'll see later, you have either some kind of lookup column to handle it, or you can match up by position. So far, the column order is quite nice. I added a select tool. The purpose of that is just to delete the row ID because that will shift the column positions. Once we remove it, we can use, let's type the dynamic rename into the tool. So the header row, remember, the top half the true statement, we can use that to drag in. To set up, we have different choice. Usually it's field names. So in this case, we're going to take from the right input. So the header is kind of like a lookup table. Position, that's fun. So which column you want to select? We have two. So we're going to select the column and run it. As long as the column number doesn't change, it's quite a robust way, you can see, to include inside the results table. If just click metadata, we'll see we're getting our necessary columns. So arrival, tourism expenditure, you have inbound transport. So compared to what they're looking for, it's a bit weird the way it says. But in the question, it says they're looking for aggregated annual outbound tourism. But for the outbound, they don't have arrival. You only have departure. Arrival goes to the inbound. Yeah, they're looking for inbound. Anyway, we're going to select one of the column because I think we're going to format the things differently. Where are they looking for? So we're going to travel them. Let's rather than select, let's show another way we can rename the headers. Assume the interested is the inbound. Let's just cancel that. Data's fine. We can highlight select. Select can do a lot of things for us, particularly rename. We can remove other remove things. So for us, we know that inbound is necessary. We can remove all the inbound. So you can see the rename field already in the arrival tourism. If we just copy paste the string, we should handle. So what we want to get is the tourism expenditure in countries. That's probably tourism expenditure in US, IMF. For the other ones, we want to increase. Yes. Not entirely sure they wanted or not. Yeah, they wanted the tax tourism expenditure in US millions IMF before the travel and the passenger. Uh, well, if they're really looking for it, fair enough. Yeah, let's copy this. Copy select is not always the best choice in the setting. So we want this string, control. We want to add it for the travel and the passenger. So that's like adding a prefix. Oops, that's a lot of text. So I think that's another dash we want to do, space. Now we don't need this text anymore. Let's just run it. If we click output, we get in the column we want. So arrival, the tourism expenditure, then even two more statement for travel passenger. I think that match up. Yes, hopefully that match up with the correct field. So we want to int 32. We can just the last one we can modify everything as integer to int 32. Select all the fields. We can change the data type as well. So highlight to 32. And that should be the final workflow. Usually, we always Current loss information translations. Ah, they must be the decimals there. Mhm. No thousands. Thousands need to be double. Okay, let's change that to doubles. Let's just see, do we have doubles in the thousands arrival? Oh, two. So this is a check of data quality issue. So everything is about 5 digits. Why do we have arrival more than 5 digits? Oh, that must be concatenation goes wrong. Hmm. Why do you have the decimals coming? More troubleshooting. So we can select the dates we interested and no, we can go back to records. So that's the second row. Record ID is 2. What happened to record ID is 2? So let's do some filtering. Yeah, we have here in the values, we have the decimals here. Row ID should be equal to 2. Without even going, the first column should be arrival. You have decimals already. That's to do with the JSON pass. It's coming from the data itself. So the thing after dates is the arrival field. In practice, usually we'll go back to the data source to check with them. My guess is those dot should be a comma instead. So you have about 75,000, and that should be a comma rather than dot. Different country use a different notation to the thousand separate, but decimal point should be a dot. Okay, we delete the two. Select. So if we go for no number 2, let's select a different field. So in practice, those are the field I would use a filter to select anything has the dots in it and do a little bit of manual check regarding to the stakeholder whoever on the data source about this particular field. At the moment, I think what Alteryx did is look at the dots because we cast as an integer and try to truncate the points respect to that integer. If I change it to double, my guess is it probably will keep as a double field. So yeah. So with the field, it's 76 point something. You can switch off the thousand separate. So in the final answer, they must do the additional formula. They rounded the number up to the integer rather than keep as a decimal for the thousands. And those are the things you can check regarding your stakeholder, how you want to proceed with those things. And that is a bit long, but overall that's you can start to handle different kind of data format transformation. Hopefully we get introduced a few more tools. Dynamic rename is not that particular often used, particular when you have a different input data set. So thanks for watching.